Hello and welcome to this new video on shell scripting. If you know shell scripting a bit, you know that it's like a programming language like Python. So it's not very kind of like logical to expect that we can learn it with a 30-minute video. So what I have done in here is that I introduced the basics. I will tell you like how you can go in there, create a shell script, and also I introduced 30 most used commands of the shell, so you can go in there and use them probably on your daily shell scripting. Those are the commands that I'm using myself in the workplace on a daily basis. And at the end, I've introduced two cheat sheets on shell scripting, so that whenever you have some question, whenever you have interview, you can go in there and like learn from those cheat sheets or probably practice those commands. And I'm introducing you a free course on shell scripting. So let's dive in here and see what is shell scripting. So here, as I said, there is like we have intro, we have the most used commands and variables, local, global variables, and then conditionals, and then there's also bonus talk coming from my experience. So when to use bash and when to use a programming language basically on your daily job, and then next steps to learn more. So what is shell? On daily basis, many people use terminal and shell interchangeably as a word, but they are not like the same. So terminal is completely different from shell. Terminal is what you see in the left in here, that is like a user interface that connects to kind of like the kernel of a system. And in your computer, you have the terminal, which is basically that environment that kind of emulates these kind of like devices. So that's why they call it terminal emulator. So that's the term they are using for it. So you have terminal for this one. In Windows also recently we have terminal, and so you know they are like, so they are calling like these set of applications as terminals or terminal emulators. And we have shell. Shell is something that is like kind of that program inside terminal, that interactive interface inside the terminal. The name is shell. So shell executes commands, gets the keyboard input and gives you the output of the characters, plus gives you the access to sometimes low-level utilities inside the kernel and sometimes other applications. So shell is a program inside the terminal. We can have different shells like ZSH, that's the default shell in Mac currently. We have bash. So bash is one of the most used one, commonly used one. That's why sometimes you hear shell scripting or bash scripting like used as the same way, but like they are different because bash has its own command interface. And let's actually go and create a shell script. So it's pretty easy to bring up your terminal and you can have it like this. I'm just making it bigger. So that's my terminal. I can write in here. I can like ask commands from it. So let's go in there and create a shell script. Then you want to create a shell script. Usually you should use sh file. So we can say vim and probably the name is hello world.sh. So we are creating it here, and then the first thing that it should go in there, the name is shebang. So this is the shebang. Example bash. That's how you are writing it. This vim that I'm using currently, it doesn't have probably the highlighting for shell scripts, so it doesn't matter at all, but like usually it's coming with the vim. Especially if you are using Ubuntu, it's coming with it. So we are having beam bash. So in beam bash, we are saying that use bash as your executor, or you can say use sh as your executor. I'm like bash, or you can use sh. Basically, that's the default shell. So echo is the command that basically prints out something in the command line, and then you say hello world. So if you want to save in the vim, you press escape, you go to the command type of the vim, you press colon and then X saves it for you. Uh, let's just check what kind of credentials has. So it's write and read for the user, and for everybody else is read. We don't like to have that one. We want to have it as executable. Executable means that we can execute it. So let's check again the access to it. It means that everybody can kind of go in there and execute it. Now let's execute it. That's it. You have written your first shell script. So what we have done to review is that we have opened the text editor, Vim. That's the most commonly used one. And then we wrote a shell script, and then we delivered it in here. So what are the kind of like commands that you can write in here? That's basically the commands that you can write on your shell script. So these are the sequence of commands that you are running on your shell. So shell scripting is usually used to automate the task that you're using in here or doing in here in your command line. So if you are kind of like copying something from somewhere to another place, that's the same thing that you're doing here, and using it to automate. And let's go and kind of like pull up our most used commands and then practice them one by one. So the most used one is ls. I can say, you can see here I have used ls to get what is inside the directory, and or probably you can get more data about one file. This is what I'm doing in here. So if you can just do ls by itself, you can find out what's happening in this directory, what files are in here. If you want more data about it, you can use al. So it will give you everything about like if it's executable, if not, and you can use kind of like this structure to see what's happening in there. And the other one is cd. Basically you can go in a file or directory with cd. Just cd itself will bring you to home. That's every user has a home. You can use pwd to see where you are actually. So that's my home in the Mac. And then you can create a directory. So again, you can see documents, classroom, and then we can say mkdir shell scripting. So cd shell scripting. So this is another directory that you have in here. And then you can have rm, that is removing a file. You can have rm-r basically to remove a directory. So let's say touch hey.txt ls. So you can see it creates a file, but just it's a dummy file. There's nothing in there. With cat, you can see what's happening inside that file. You can see it's nothing. And then there's like another way that you can maybe that's something that is a bit advanced, going to tell you later. So with rm, you can just delete that, hey.txt. So that's for removing it. You can see this description. It's going to be under this video, so you can practice it pretty fast, or you can jot it down anytime that you want. So whenever like you want to just delete everything in this folder, you should just use rm. If you just use rm and then you say, for example, shell scripting the whole directory, it says that if I cannot do it, it's a directory. So you need to do some kind of like r to kind of make sure that it's kind of recursive in deleting that. So it has been deleting the directory. There is no directory anymore in there. So you can see there is no directory. This is like pptx, but it's not a directory. This is like the slideshow that I was showing to you. And then we can move a file. By moving a file, it's like either renaming it. So either you can rename the file, or you can even move it from one place to another place. So let's say mkdir again, shell, and then we can say move file, and then we can say hello world to shell. That's a directory. And then you can see here we don't have any hello world anymore. So you can see it's in there. Uh, we can touch a file. Let's go in there, and then, as I said, touch a file creates creates a file or updates a file, but it's just a dummy one. By dummy one, I mean that it doesn't basically write anything to it. It just updates the data about that file. And then with head, what you can do is just get the top of lines of the file, and then with tail you can get the last part of it. Usually head and tail are used for the for the logs. And then with PS you can find out which applications are running. Here you can see it's ZSH, basically the place that I'm typing in there. And then you can use top will tell you like what applications are running, and then what is the percent of just CPU that it's just using. You can see the percentage of CPU in here for OBS, that is the application that is recording this video, is 96%. But 96% is just one of the cores, but not all of it. So let's go in there and use htop. So htop will show you in a better way, in more beautiful way. So you can see in here that what's happening in a better, like nicer graphical interface. You can see it in here. We are using probably 63% of one core, but these ones are like, they are not like physical cores. They are like, logical cores. So your CPU can have 2 physical cores, and each of those cores can have 2 logical cores. Basically, then you are going to have 4 cores in here, as you can see. This is the memory. So this one, I usually use it when I'm connecting to another server. I want to see what is the usage in that server. htop, I've told you. Then chmode basically is like changing the access to that file. When you do +x, it adds the x to a file. Next one that we're going to have is the grep. Grep, it's a very nice command. I really like it. So you can do echo or cat. Actually, it's better to do the cat if you want to get something out of a file, and then you can pipe it to another command. Pipe means that output of this command goes to another command. That's one of the most used kind of features that you're going to use. And then you can do the grep, and then you can just say hello, and then it will show you the line that it's containing that word. And then you can have like R, basically it's just recursive way of looking for the pattern in the files. And then the next one is this one, the command and grep. That is basically what I told you. It's piping. And then wget is like getting the file. So let's say here, this is like a file address. Let's do wget, and then wget not found. Didn't expect this one. The reason that it's not found is because I'm using Mac, and these kind of scripts or this kind of application is not shipped with it. So you can easily install it with brew. So brew is some kind of like apt-get for, brew install. Brew is something like apt-get for Ubuntu. Install, yes. So you have it here. Brew is going to install in there. It's interesting, it says that permission is denied. So with brew, you can install other utilities that you want in your command line. That's like the applications. Okay, it's installed. Let's do wget. Okay, it just saved it pretty quickly because it was like something small. And then we have different like redirection of input and output. You can see in here. Basically, this one says that the next one is like writing it to another one, that is dummy file ls cat dummy file. You can see it's in there. The next one is basically that's the thing that I like, and that is when you don't want the output of the command line to show for you, you just put it inside the null. That's it. Nobody sees it. So null is like the dark matter. So anything that goes in there, it just evaporates. And then the next one is that probably you want to How are you to this? And then you want to append it, basically not overwrite it, but append it to the previous one. And then let's see what is in there. You can see it's like appended it. And then we have pipes. As you can see, pipes I've told you. The next one is conditionals. Conditionals are pretty easy. Let's write one of them in the hello world. Okay, something simple. I'm sure that it's not going to work. Let's see. So it says that there is an error in there here. That's what usually happens. If you get something like this, no problem. Because we have different syntax for the scripts. So let's go in here and say that bash if statement. And then you can easily search for it. You should use this one and then phi. Yep, that works fine. You can see in here. So basically it's just you should see with what kind of shell you're programming, and according to that shell you can write your if statement. And like there are like Boolean operations in that statement, you can see in here. And it's like pretty easy to work with, but at the end of the day, it's better to search for them if there is a need or there is a case for it. That's what I do usually on a daily basis. And I don't expect anybody to know the if statements. So now that we have reviewed the commands or most used commands, there is a part that I want to talk to you about, like when to use the shell script and when to use the programming language. Usually, whenever the logic is not hard and the logic is easy enough to just have it with some command lines and basically with some ifs. So I will go just with bash scripting. That's something that is easy. I can implement it. But sometimes you need some kind of complex change of the variables, complex change of the input, and you need to do like crazy kind of like loops. In that case, I would go with Python. That is easier to read for everybody else too. So when it's like you should opt for which one is easy to read and which one is easy to implement. So Python language is easy to read and implement, but it's not as close to the operating system as Bash. So you should use Bash if something is easy. You need to be close to the operating system. If there also Python has a way that you can run the commands in it, some kind of like OS kind of executor, but it's not a must in there. And that's pretty much it regarding the bash script and when you should use bash scripting vs Python language or like any other programming language that you're comfortable with. But generally, as I promised you, there are like other sources of information. So one of the cheat sheets is this one, that is FastWire. I have also sent that one in the description. The other one is this one from Cheatography. Like this individual has written this one, thanks to him. For writing this or the script of this video, I use both of the commands in here. Each one of them have good things, but it doesn't mean that you're going to use all of these commands on a daily basis. It depends on the interview that you're going to go in. If the interview is asking shell scripting as a must, so probably they need like heavy knowledge of shell scripting. In that case, it's better, I think, you go to this one that is intro to Linux shell scripting. Pretty easy video that you can take it on and then go over like different challenges that are there. And the next one is this one, that is the hacker rank. And there is like a practice set for the Linux shell that you can go in there and practice them and basically be a hero in that one. But I wouldn't like emphasize on bash scripting. If you're going to get interview on DevOps or probably SRE, bash scripting is not such a big deal, although it's needed for you. Actually, you know how to do the things, but it's not something that you should know completely, like write everything in bash. that's a good thing to have. But again, like there are a lot of other knowledges out there that you need to know, that maybe shell scripting is just part of it. Uh, that's pretty much it. I have put everything in the description, so feel free to review them. Feel free to click on those links and go over like to this course or to different courses. Oh, there is also another thing that I wanted to tell you, and that is about this site. I've just found it, Chitography. It's awesome site, awesome website. It's like everybody can come in here and generate their own cheat sheets. What I like is like about the programming languages. Basically, you can come in here and learn about regular expressions. Usually it's needed in the, again, like in DevOps especially, and SRE. And if you're kind of like getting interviews in any other like tech stack, you can come in here and review the cheat sheets and go to the interview. Hopefully you'll pass it. Yep, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, any suggestions, please put it in the comments and I will for sure reply. Thank you.